Good evening, everybody. It is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024 at 6:04 p.m. And with a quorum being present, I will call to order the Freetown Board of Selectmen meeting. This meeting was intended to be a joint meeting with the Finance Committee and the Board of Selectmen. They do not have a quorum, so I'm going to kick it over to Margaret for...
It's being recorded.
Yeah, so this meeting is recorded and will be available on the town's YouTube page.
Okay. It being 6:04 and not having a quorum present, the Finance Committee joint with the Board of Selectmen meeting will not be in session. The Finance Committee will stay as public for the Board of Selectmen meeting to ask questions as members of the public.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so tonight we'll be going through the budget. And so first up, we have the building budget. So Carl, if you want to, I guess we'll start off, and now let's set some ground rules here so we can do this in the most efficient way possible. I don't think we need to go line by line. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
So really it's just any particular items that we have questions on or anything that you want to speak to specifically. So I think that this starts at what, 241?
Yeah, where's facilities though? Oh, public building, 192.
192, so let's start there. All right. And so let's just take a minute and look through it, and then if we have any questions, we'll let you know.
Thank you.
It is a lot of buildings, a lot of facilities. It'd be great if we could roll some of these up in the future. You know what I mean?
It's a lot, yeah.
All right, I guess I'll. So my only question, so on the police station, the electricity, what am I looking at here where it's like of the 25,000 for the expended?
So on the police station, as you gentlemen are aware of, we had no maintenance programs in place, things like fire suppression systems. So over the past year, we've created those programs. We're protecting our fire systems, our air systems. So we have these maintenance programs in place that's eating up a lot of those costs that we need to have in the first place. So that's going to pay dividends down the road. We'll have better functioning building and less repairs as it is right now. We spent a lot of money on repairs. So we did those repairs. We're assured that the water coming in now is clean. That came at a cost. We have a program to make sure our fire suppression systems work. So everything's in place to be successful. We're winning. We're winning the game here. But it did take the increase that we had to put on there.
You're talking about the electricity?
Yeah.
I think what happened when the budget came in originally, they had inadvertently put the 25,000 down because that's what was spent year to date. That was a 6-month marker.
Gotcha.
And so I circled it and sent it back, and they, the reality is the electricity for this building runs around $52,000 for the year. So that's why you see that circled and changed, because you know how it is. So somebody just looked at the number and put it down, and it's by accident. Yeah, it's expensive building.
As the board might remember, we did go up on the fees, plumbing inspections, and so we're not the most expensive, we're not the least, we're in the middle where we should be, so we did increase our fees. Mm-hmm. We're much more efficient now because of the computers we have for permitting that allows people to get their permits in and out faster than ever before. So we're lean, but we're right where we want to be, providing service to the taxpayers.
Excellent. And I'm thinking it's supposed to be $750 now that I look at it. So it's building repair and maintenance supplies for highway bond. It looks
What page, Jared?
Oh, I'm sorry, 46.
Thank you.
I'm assuming that last zero is scribbled out, and I just want to make sure it's 750 and not 7,500. Mm-hmm. So that is correct. Okay. I just wanted to verify because it was, we're not using much money in there.
So if I can speak about the our facilities in our highway department. So we added a automatic door opener to it. We've made some repairs to the fueling pad, which was a concern. It was leaking. So again, we've made those upgrades with taxpayer dollars, and you can see it's paying off dividends now as we speak. Mm-hmm. It won't be any cheaper next year. So whatever we can do now, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
On page 41, and maybe that's what you explained before, the service building and grounds for the police.
Right.
Is that,
So there was an increase now because we didn't have any maintenance programs in place.
That
we
was
do.
what
We're right where we should be now. We're chipping away at it.
Yep.
I don't have anything.
Yeah, I'm good with this. Any other questions?
You've done a great job, Carl, this past year, keeping everything up to date.
I have a lot of help doing that. So a lot of help, a lot of support from the board, my administrator, and my colleagues. I can't say enough for them.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. So do we move down to 241? Is that how we want to do this?
Yep.
All right, 241, which is actual building. So it's like overall, this one's actually going to go down a little bit. Is that what I'm seeing? See that?
I think we did clean this up a little bit. Things that hadn't been spent in the past years, we took them out or we decreased the amounts.
Yeah, I see that in a couple spots here. Like vehicle supplies, looks like
We
those.
tried to really make a lean budget. We'll see how that works out for us in terms of, how we spend. If we start we're over and we don't have the money to fund it, you'll see that in the reserve fund transfers come next March or April. But I'm hoping we're still good, but a little bit on the conservative side.
Straightforward to me.
And then Nadine's pay rate going up. Is that the part union, or is that on the
Clerical?
So, yeah, no, that's,
She didn't go up. She's at the 49,592.
yeah, I'm just looking at maybe I'm just looking at this incorrectly. It's been a while. But on this, on like the last page of that section.
No, she did her pay. That was just incorrect. She
Okay.
transposed the numbers.
Gotcha.
The 3 and the 6. So I caught that and sent it back to have it corrected.
All right, perfect.
So these are not also another note that we're in union negotiations with 4 of the 5 unions.
Yeah,
So what you're seeing for payroll is exactly what they're being paid today. So there will be, I don't foresee us being able to get the unions done prior to the town meeting, but if so, we will make those adjustments. We are carrying a little bit of money in our budget to compensate these when we get the union contracts negotiated and completed. But you're seeing every union employee flat funded.
perfect. That makes sense. Any questions and concerns there? Good. All right, so next would be gas, so 242. Which is a pretty straightforward one.
It's that number, so.
Flat, right?
Yep.
Like everybody else, it's gone up a little bit, but nothing crazy.
Did it go up?
Yeah, he actually flat funded it.
Yeah.
I think those are right on track, right?
Yeah,
Those are the same as last year.
yeah, I mean, I think we had a decent bump from 03 to 04, right? But then gas is expensive.
These are the inspection, right?
Okay, yeah, expected.
Yeah.
Never mind.
But
Sorry,
we did
I was thinking this
increase
is
the
the
inspection.
actual
We
gas
didn't-
cost.
No, we did increase the inspection, what we're paying per inspection.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
that's why it went up last year.
That's
But we're
right.
right on track, so I think those are good numbers.
All right. Any questions, concerns? No. Awesome. And then so this plumbing should also be straightforward. Same thing for plumbing inspections.
Yeah.
Same. We also went up in those fees, right? So there's
We
no.
did.
All right. So then we go to 245, which is electrical. Flat. And then same thing, those fees, went up, so it's all same. Now, like, it looks like the expended so far, no, I guess that's about, it's on track, right?
Yeah, it is pretty, this payroll, these sheets were printed in January, so about 6 months into our fiscal year.
Mm-hmm.
So you almost double that, right? So
Yeah.
22.5 is where it would end up, and you never quite know. So I think 25,000 is a fair budget for that.
Just, I have a question, just random. So just thinking about like, potential new construction with, new rules coming and things of that nature. For inspection, like all these different kinds of electrical, plumbing, is it the same fee if it's a multi-unit?
So commercial residential is the
It's the only
difference.
distinction, right?
It is.
So it could be a single house, we have the same fee as like say it's like a six unit building.
Unit. It might be commercial. I mean, anything more
Okay.
than 4 will be commercial.
Technically commercial, okay.
Yeah.
Because I just, it's kind of interesting, something we don't have to really deal with now, but we might have to in the future. And maybe there's an opportunity there to generate, or really, sure, it's more work to inspect
does,
something
yeah.
that's, maybe we want to think about modifying that kind of
Yeah,
fee structure.
and it's a great point because we're not in the business of making money, but we're not in the business of losing money
Exactly.
to that, right? So I think, it
So,
is something to look at where if we start having
So I think the only other thing is that a plan review, most towns charge for a plan review. It takes time to sit and go through the plan, so there's a charge for that. We could consider that in the future.
Mhm.
It's a small markup, but the big commercial builds out, that's peanuts for somebody to pay, $500, $200, whatever, for plan review.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we could consider that if the board feels that's something you might want to pursue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it needs to be priority 1A, but it is something to think
We'll keep it in mind, sure.
All right, any other questions or concerns? All right.
Just no additional staffing. There's no, it's just increase in cost basically for the maintenance of the buildings. Building budget was pretty flat.
Yeah.
Cut with a scalpel, I think. Right? It was a very sharp knife when you cut me the cut.
I think
And that's the
maybe
best kind of cut, with a sharp
did
knife.
it fairly. I think we just tried to tighten the margins a little bit where we could, where we felt like we could.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. I think if no one has any other questions, I think that was
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
that was an
night.
easy one.
Thank you, Carl.
All right, what chief up? Or you got up first?
Just as simple, right?
Did rock, paper, scissors, shit.
I have just a little thicker folder.
Fire's 220.
All right. So we should start with DEP hazmat,
Oh, okay.
right? That makes sense.
Yeah, we can. That was
Yep,
a short one.
196.
Yeah, just to get them. I'm trying to just do them in order now.
Easy one. Nothing in there.
Oh, well, that was easy.
No, not there.
We don't have the budget.
220 it is. Level funded. That's what I say.
All right. And
I'll have to get you
then,
that budget because I do have it.
so communications, that's police and fire. How does that work?
That's, the communication center is overseen
Police.
by Chief Rose
Okay,
and
so
myself.
that's gonna be all right.
He prepares the budget for that.
All right, perfect. So we'll go to 220. Fire. All right, so we'll take
That's finally me.
a yeah.
Welcome.
All right, so just give us a minute to review this, and then
I wrote that on my notes. So.
I heard nothing.
How many, any new firefighters in the salary line?
Yes,
How many?
one.
One.
So I don't know that you have this change. You have this change 1 million.
Yep. 1,199,831. Yep.
That I added to it because of the comp time issue that we have.
Okay.
We have some firefighters that are carrying some substantial comp time. So we're in the middle of union negotiations. I want to pay out the comp time and stop it from accruing to this level. So I added the amount to this budget so that we could do that, so that we wouldn't have these unfunded, mandates going forward. Now, I don't know
That's
that they-
the 1199?
yeah, that's what the difference between
Okay.
his number and I added that number. But I
Okay.
just
So you
want
added that to the salary line, the
That-
firefighter
I
salary line?
changed your salary line
Okay.
to 1,199,831.
And that includes the payout.
That includes the payout at time and a half.
and the
all
new
of the
positions.
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So we're negotiating that in the union, but I'm pretty hopeful that we'll be able to get that resolved. And if not, that money will be, added, but it really needs to happen.
now, the new position, is that, I was reading about the grant, is that,
So what, a year ago, I came before you and asked for the two positions last year, right? And I explained that my goal was to have 4 people there 24/7. But I realized that we couldn't absorb all that at once. So I think we all kind of said at the end of this meeting last year, okay, well, the 2 is good, and we're going to pick away at the rest of it. So we've actually applied that the grant has been submitted. I don't know where it's going to stand, but we have applied for a grant for more personnel, actually for 4th. that federal staffing grant now has changed since the last one we got. We got one 5 years ago, but that we hired 2 people with. At that time, the grant covered 75, 50, and 30% of salaries over a 3-year period. They've changed the grant now that it covers 100% for all 3 years, including fringe.
Wow,
That's
fantastic.
Really?
That's huge. So my in-house grant writer guy spent many hours putting it all together, and we've submitted it. Whether I don't know how our score will be where we've already gotten it once. All depends on, it's competitive, so all depends on how many people are applying for it. So we've done that. And I've talked this over with Deb, so my plan is to, if I get this person, is to try to move, and that's contractual too, but try to move one of the senior people to a day shift, 40-hour day shift. Whether that falls, and I'll have to coordinate that so that their day off and Neil, the deputy's day off, don't line up. So now that gives me, and then I put the new person on the 24-hour rotation. So that gives me 2 people, most of the time, other than with the bad calls, that gives me 2 people to have on that second ambulance during the week, during the day. That's when I have I won't say I have a hard time, but I have a harder time getting people to come from home in the middle of the work week or come from work. The other thing that does, and I'm sure we're going to get to overtime here eventually, but that takes a senior person that's been here for 15 or 18 years who has almost maxed out his vacation time, and that takes him out of that. I wouldn't fill that shift. When he goes on vacation, or we don't use sick days, but personal time and whatnot, I wouldn't backfill that. So that's 400 hours of overtime I've taken out of the equation already. And then I would try, I've been maintaining the 3-person minimum. That's why my overtime number is where it is. So we said, okay, that's where our staffing needs to be. So I'm working to maintain that. I would try to continue to maintain that. So if there was someone that's on shift off during the week, I'll use the senior guy that's working days to be the 3rd guy during the day shift. So I'm my overtime number, when I march it all out and I add it all up and I have those figures here, is like ridiculous. So this, I mean, I still have an increase built in here because of more time off and whatnot, and pays going up and college degrees and whatnot. But I think I can lessen the impact by not filling 800 or 900 hours of that overtime by having the day guy and using the day guy to fill that slot.
Yep.
And the other, the deputy and my, I'll say our days are numbered, but I mean, we got 2.5 years left, and that goes by awfully quick. And we have very good people over there, but there's things that Neil and I need to start teaching them the fire prevention and some of the administrative stuff. So I had that advantage when Carrie was leaving, and it's.
Yeah, so I don't know
Yeah.
if they realize that.
Proactive, yeah.
That they're
No,
retiring, yeah.
Yeah.
we heard, yeah.
But
And so it helps the transition.
40,
and that's
42 years, that's a long time.
I think also
Still
the
not
grant,
allowed.
when we talked about the grant and putting in for 4, I thought, oh, that's a lot, right? Because we're going to have to keep these. But
What's
one of the
staggering.
things is this grant does not require us to keep the same level staffing. And we thought that if we didn't need all 4 in terms of after they retired, 2 would go by attrition because they're going to
Right, so-
retire.
So you may be able
Okay.
to.
So we
Right.
should be able to just transition and not replace those 2 if we weren't in a place to do that
If you-
Right, if you
financially.
can't afford to absorb all 4,
Right.
So that was why I thought the number was okay at 4, because we do know we have 2 retiring, and maybe, I mean, we have others that are getting close to retirement too.
Paul
Right.
can essentially retire the same week that Neil and I, we all started full-time the same week. Paul will have his years in and could go at the same time. And right now he says that, doesn't have any desire to retire at that point. His wife's got to keep working. He loves what he does. And
But
so he has
it
no
works
intention,
for,
but you never know.
transitioning. So that was just so you know, that was our thought process when we had this discussion. It was, we don't have to maintain the staffing, which the policing grant was different. I don't know if it is different. I don't know, maybe the chief's going to talk about that. But for the fire grant, we don't have to, so we can let 2 retire and just not replace them if financially we're not in that position to do that, or we don't have the demand that we think we're going to have.
Okay.
Hopefully we get that grant. We'll be so
Let's hope.
excited.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Chief, is there anything we can do as far as calling somebody or poking a representative or somebody up top?
Those emails have gone out that we've applied for it. So
Okay. Well, if there's an opportunity for us to,
I'm drawing a blank on Jake's last name.
Auchincloss?
Yes.
Auchincloss?
But yeah, those emails have gone out and they
Perfect.
know that we've applied for them. So I assume that, and it's a scoring system. It goes through various levels, but a little word in here and there certainly doesn't hurt. So
Yeah, I'm hoping that was, getting a train station that should help us somehow,
Yes,
right?
yeah,
Because
that's
it's going to
sort of
increase our
what's-
need.
My argument was we're going to grow faster than our economic growth. So
Yeah.
we're going to have to bridge that gap while we're waiting for the economic growth to catch up to the actual need for the additional staffing.
Especially when it comes to things like police and fire, right? Like,
Right.
that's going to be the first
what I mean.
impact.
for police and fire, right?
And then schools and
Price increase on the ambulance.
Yep. All right.
Chief, in here it says that you have 4 firefighters that got their degrees.
I do. I have one that just finished, and the other 3 are in the early parts of the next fiscal year. They were either I think there are 2 bachelor's and 2 associate's degrees that are
Excellent.
they're
Yeah.
completed.
Big congrats to them. So that's great. Great.
They're putting in the work over there. You folks have a good bunch of people over there.
If I remember the union negotiations, it's a great incentive to go get your degree. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Absolutely.
All right.
There's one other position that we're going to change from part-time to full-time
Just the clerk,
is
yes.
the clerk.
Okay. Yeah.
Because they've grown to a point now where they need a full-time.
Yeah. I remember us talking about that. That makes sense.
So you'll see that jump in the clerical line.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
It doesn't surprise me, but it does, is the price increase on the ambulance.
Yeah.
Say over $500,000 for the ambulance. And we
And
just
the-
got
and
one. Like,
I mean, the fire truck that we have on order, we have a contractual agreement that they're locked into that. They don't have any choice. But that truck is 600 and change, or 660 or something like that when it all said and done. And that same truck today is $1 million.
Wow.
How much?
$1
$1
million.
million. And I talked to Colby and I'm like, really? He's like, it's ridiculous. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's really crazy.
Well, we
and it
pay on
takes you
delivery.
3 years to get it.
Yeah. It's like, so the smart thing is the inflation of these emergency vehicles is ridiculous. The smart thing to do is just
Buy them up.
get ahead of it, right? You don't want to.
It really is. And for example, it was Chief Flynn in Berkeley I was just talking to. They have a collapsible, looks like a little kiddie pool to use at accidents to catch diesel fuel leaks.
Mm-hmm.
One of our fire vendors gets $300 for this fold-up kiddie pool, right? You can buy the same thing from Granger Industrial Supply for like $50.
Yeah. It's crazy.
But it's
Yeah, so
But
the
some of the
ambulance
stuff
that
you're stuck. You have,
we just got the ambulance, right? And the price of the ambulance that we just received, was it a year ago?
it's just here.
It was $384,000,
It's like
and the new
doubled.
one is $550,000, and that's today's price. We don't know when we actually get to order it.
Well, there's contingency money built into that quote.
Okay, good.
I told the vendor when we were doing that, I was like, we need to make sure that I have good numbers. So there's some contingency for the actual ambulance part of it and the cabin chassis, because, the Ford truck part is,
So you asked for the ambulance, you asked for a truck. And I
yes.
told you that we're tight on that.
Mhm.
And I asked you if it was a need or a want. And you said you need the truck more than you need the ambulance right now. So I just want to point that out. And maybe you can talk to that. I think that for me, the numbers, it's really depending on the fire station addition.
Mhm.
And I'm waiting for the final numbers on that to know where we're going to be. We have free cash, as we know. So at the special town meeting, there will be a warrant article to fund the fire station addition. We know we're short by at least $1 million, but that leaves me with no contingency money, and we haven't put it out to bid yet. So I don't know what the end cost is, and I don't want to have to come back to the town for more money. My thought process today is to make that warrant article around 1.5 million or 1.6 million. And I say that because there's other things in the fire station addition project that we have pulled out of the project. What are those? It's a new generator that we need. The generator there is over 20 years old. We know we're going to need a new generator. I didn't want to roll it into the fire station addition project because these things, the municipal bids just get so big and they tack on more money and more money.
We're gonna need it anyway.
I'm going to need it anyway. And the other thing is the existing fire station needs a new roof. But again, I didn't want to add it to that addition project because the price of it will be much higher than if we just bid out just the roof. And so we need a generator, a roof, and I pulled all the furniture and they wanted $10,000 for window shades. I pulled that stuff out of the municipal bid because I know we can do it cheaper separately. So my thought process with the warrant article was to make it at 1.5 or 1.6. See what the bid is, have that flexibility to make sure we can cover the addition, and word the article so that the extra money will be used for those sub projects that we know we have to do anyways. But I've pulled them out of the overall big project because it will be cheaper and more economical for us to do them separately by themselves. So just so you have some background on that, I'm still pulling them all together. That being said, I think the ambulance may have to wait
Okay.
until fall meeting if we have
Let
free
me
cash.
speak on that a little bit then.
Okay,
And I'll explain to you why I think we can wait a year.
okay.
We've been on, we started some time ago with Chief Sylvia on a 6-year frontline 3. It used to be 4 and 4. Then we got so that we were wearing them out bad. The backup truck was really bad by the time we were getting rid of them. We said we got to go to 3, so we did that. The situation, so I was trying to keep that same schedule, and as it is, because of the lag time to get a vehicle, if we fund the new ambulance and order it, the other one will be 7 years old by the time we get rid of it because of the time, right?
Yeah.
So I submitted that, and then you said, can I wait a year? So I said, let me look, and I went back and looked at that. And then I scratched my head and I went, why is this the way it, and I said, yes, I can put this off for another year. And I'm trying to figure out why. The reason why is the truck that is the backup right now was the primary when I had the 2 guys at Station 2 during the week. Mm-hmm. They were doing all the mutual aid to New Bedford calls. They were doing all the calls on that side of town. So they were putting the extra mileage on the truck that we no longer have. They were keeping mileage off of the one that's the backup truck now. So the backup truck now is in much better shape as the backup than any of the previous backups before that.
Gotcha.
Great.
So that we even if it's 8 years old now, by the time it gets we can wait a year.
Okay.
We can wait a year on that.
I guess I mean, one of the thought processes is that I wanted to fund it because I thought we might have the free cash. If the FinCom and the selectmen were inclined, I think we could lease it on a 3 or 4 year lease schedule, which is what we've done in the past, which is why I asked you to wait, because we're paying for the fire truck and we're paying for, I think we have the ambulance on the lease schedule. One of them drops off next year, and I thought just keep it on there. But when I thought further about it, I'm like, we have this available cash. It doesn't make sense for me to pay interest to a leasing company that they're going to put the money in escrow for 2 years, waiting for the ambulance to come in, when we can keep it in our coffers and earn the interest, because we have done a good job, the treasurer and myself, of investing our money so that we're earning 4 or 5% on the money that's sitting in our coffers. So that if it was a necessity, we could lease it. I'd prefer not to for financial reasons. It doesn't make sense overall. And I do believe come fall, we'll be looking at it, we'll see where we
Say
are.
it's 6 months, right? So not a year, which is good.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
You have 2 trucks or 3? Is it 2?
Ambulance is 2.
You have 2. Okay.
Okay, so that
Do you have a higher, and I'm sorry, I don't want to drive it on, but do you have a higher call volume now though, right? So the thing that worries me is us making sure we do it sooner than later. And I'm not saying this meeting, but before putting more, you're talking about what it used to be, and that second ambulance was.
Right. So right, Chad, you're absolutely right. That's going to catch up with us.
Yeah.
We're in good shape right now, but it's going to catch up with us again. So we're going to need to get back to the 6 year deal as.
The other thing, we have to kind of compare like what the interest we'll receive in the money to put it off a year versus what the inflation on the fire truck will, or the
so let me
ambulance will
pull
be.
together the articles for our meeting next week, because the thought process about the fire station addition is sort of something I've just kind of come to grips with we had a meeting yesterday or Monday. And that helped me kind of know where the timing is. Also, I think this Monday coming up, we're having a meeting with the budget. We'll have an updated budget for the fire station addition. That will dictate how much money I think we need to put in that article, and then where we lie with our free cash and our excess levy that we have available. I'll come back next week with more information for everybody. And if we have the money, we can move forward with the ambulance.
What is the truck for? Because last year you got a command vehicle, right?
Yes. Last year we purchased a command vehicle for me. We gave the Tahoe to the deputy. We've never had a deputy's car before. The truck that I want to replace now is it's numbered Squad 3. It's the pickup truck that the supervisor rides around in. It's gone to probably 750 calls already this fiscal year. So it's used. Mm-hmm. And it's a 2016. It's got over 100,000 miles on it. It's 100,000 hard miles, not commuter miles. Yeah. A lot of idle time. And it's a 2016 Ford. The rust is starting to show on the fender wells and the cab corners. And it's used. I mean, it's one of our primary vehicles that goes in and out of there. That's why I felt like that's more of a priority than the ambulance this year, really. Mm-hmm. That's what that is. That's the truck the supervisor.
Right. Is there anything special on it, or is it a basic pickup truck?
The truck I have spec'd will put a utility body, like a mechanic style utility body on the back of it. That's the easier way to go than have a fire truck manufacturer build you something custom on the back of it. But then it can have a chainsaw and some hand. Right now we have a regular pickup truck with a little aluminum box in the back that's their turnout gear is thrown in the back seat, which is not a good thing. And so the utility body just seemed like it made more sense for what the vehicle is. We can throw some tools and equipment in, and then we still have a truck bed to put hose in and whatnot. So that was, It certainly isn't anything elaborate, and it is also it's the primary vehicle that we tow all our trailers with the tech rescue team and EEP spill trailer and all the emergency management trailers and whatnot. So.
As far as the ambulance, when you have surplus, how does that work? How do you determine when it's time to say goodbye, and what happens with the vehicles at that point?
In the past, there's always been trade-in. We've got a trade-in credit from the dealer when we bought them. Basically, it gets to the point that the wear and tear it starts to be cost prohibitive to keep fixing them. And it's not probably, I wouldn't say it's the engine or the drivetrain, it's the steering components and the suspension components, and things just get loose and rattly. They're abused, really.
Sure.
And it's just the nature of the way they're used, and the idle time is, I think we make out very well because we're pretty faithful on our maintenance. We keep a close eye on that. We change our oils often. I know some neighboring communities have had engine problems, and they had the same ambulance. They're putting like their third engine in it, but they were following service intervals as recommended by the manufacturer, and they're going by the light in the dash, and they're putting 5,000 or 7,000 miles on an oil change. Well, the thing idles. If it's not parked in the building, it's running.
Yeah, it goes by miles now.
Right, that's not putting the miles on it.
Yeah, the engine's still moving though, right?
They're blowing them up, so.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I would say by the time they get into the 125 to 130,000 mile range,
You start going.
they're getting pretty sloppy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right, are we good here with fire? So then we'll go to civil defense. Is that?
There's really no increase in civil defense.
291.
Very small amount for the salary.
I think it wasn't this one. Maybe that is my makeup. Maybe it wasn't.
Yep, under 1,000 increase.
Never been.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to the board about my fire replacement equipment, which is it's the last line before the total. I have almost doubled that line right now, and I just want to explain that because if someone asks you a question, I want you to understand.
Yeah, no, I hear ya.
what I'm doing, right? Right now, we provide all firefighters with a set of turnout gear. It's contractual for the full-time people, but everybody gets a set of turnout gear. Price of a set of turnout gear now is head to toe is around $4,000. It's a lot of money. Everybody has one set of compliant turnout gear. That replacement equipment, we buy basically 3 sets a year. Some of it has to go to the new people I send the academy. They have to have compliant turnout gear. And by compliant, no component can be more than 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Once it hits the 10-year mark, it's no longer NFPA compliant. Even if it looks shiny and pretty, it's supposed to be taken out of service. If somebody's wearing turnout gear that's 12 years old and they get hurt or burnt or worse, we're going to be on the hook because they wear non-compliant turnout gear and we didn't supply them with the good stuff. So what my goal with this money is, most of my people have a second set that's not compliant, that's out of date, that they wear because we're very diligent with washing, cleaning, decontamination now, right? So, while the stuff's in the cycle going through the wash and the dryer, they wear the old set. So my goal is to buy 6 sets of turnout gear a year, transition everyone so they have 2 complete sets of turnout gear that's compliant, and every 5 years they get a new set. So everybody will have 2 sets of gear. One's 5 years older than the other. So rather than try to fund this with $150,000 article and then have to come back every 5 years for another whack, just to kind of phase this in, so we just have a perpetual. It's coming up. Who are the 6 sets we need this year, and just keep a rotation.
That makes sense to me.
That way.
Out of curiosity, if anyone were to decide to leave for another fire department, will they keep their gear or
The gear stays here.
stays with us? Okay,
Stays here.
thank you.
No, all that's property of the town.
And I appreciate you doing it that way. I'd rather see the smaller chunks than
Well, I just
the one big
it's
hit.
right.
Yeah, it's just like.
The problem is it's one big hit every 5 years at that point,
Yeah.
rather than
Smoothing it out.
just a little
Better rotate.
nibble.
Makes sense to me. All right. So I think there was really no change in civil defense, right? Any more questions on that? There's a 5% increase in salary, I think.
It's 5% of. It's not even. I don't think, Trevor. It's 5% of the fire chief's salary.
Okay, yeah, that's nice. Oh, yeah, you're right. I misread that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's only a couple $100, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I saw 5%. Put that. I don't know if anyone has any questions. I think that's it. Is that it? You good? All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Last but not least.
I saved all my questions for you, Chief Rose.
Thank you, Carlos. I appreciate that.
No,
Be kind.
Oats. So we're going to 210, right? Give us a moment, Chief, as you see, just to absorb and. This is a big one. Thank you.
All this comes from fans.
It's my 10th one of the day.
Is my computer working?
I
brought it with me, so I'm going to leave. It's
And most of the increase I'm seeing here are contractual.
Yeah, they're the one union that does have a contract in place.
Yeah.
What is, what is the increase on page 58, the IT contracts?
So historically, the police department had a budget of $500 for the IT budget for the department. And we had a private contractor. The contractor lives in town. He's built a relationship with the department, and he was called upon on a need basis. However, as we dealing with the technology here in the station, more computers, is wise to actually have a well-designed IT budget to do maintenance work monthly. So we were able to work out an agreement with the private IT consultant, and he provides a number of hours a month. And there's also a scheduling fee that deals with anything that goes outside of the contract for funds. So $8,100 is the settled contract for this IT consultant. And then the other funding is for anything that goes outside of the maintenance. So if you can imagine a server goes down and it has to be replaced, that extra money is there to be able to support that updates and maintenance.
So we just never had
Right.
anything that,
We crossed our fingers and hoped that we never
nothing
had a problem.
happened, right? And if it did, you had just,
Right.
So we
Probably
never
robbed
had
Peter
anything
to
in the
pay
budget
Paul to
before.
fix the
No,
problem.
there was never any monthly maintenance going on and nobody checking to make sure things were being backed up properly. I know internally there's some pretty tech savvy police officers that were doing their best, to take care of it, but it's really not their responsibility. And so, we had great length conversations about this, that they needed these monthly, somebody needs to be looking at the backups more than anything, really, to make sure we don't lose data and whatnot, and that things are running smoothly without glitches. So I think that's what's in place now that wasn't in there in the past.
I have a question. So I remember this a couple of years ago, but there were some ransomware attacks for other local police stations where they were actually taken down, and some situations they actually paid the ransom. Ironically, do we have any kind of insurance what do you even do about that? I mean, I'm not sure if you.
So I will say this, that the IT consultant has been working alongside of the police and the communications for probably close to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Very reliable, and has kept us out of those problem areas.
Yeah.
However, we want to be, stay on top of it and be able to manage a threat if it does come into play.
Yeah.
So I will say this, most recently, he got an alert while he's at home. He, a lot of times, will remote access into the station to check on what's going on. He got an alert. We found out that our 2 terabyte hard drive system was almost at capacity. So he put us on alert. We dove into our server system, tried to figure out why is all this data being, accumulated. Well, we found out that all this video processing that we're getting from evidence and different types of investigations was building up. One of our detectives had almost 3/4 of a terabyte of video on his folder alone. So he was taking up almost the whole server system with this stuff. So it made us go through and do a complete, what can we weed out? What can we change? What can we store on another type of external drive? But if it wasn't for him, we probably went dealing with a crash when it got full to capacity. So having him there is like critical, so we don't have these, potential problems. So, but going back to the insurance, We are trying to stay in compliance with the insurance recommendations, and we're actually in a real good place here with the police and communications. I think one of the things that we're struggling with right now, and it's the only thing, is the multi-factor authentication.
Yep.
However, we've got some, hands working on it right now, and it looks like we have a reasonable solution here in the future, and that'll be the last piece of the puzzle to deal with the insurance compliance. So if we do have a problem, or if we do get hacked, we'll be in compliance with their, recommendations.
That makes sense.
We do have cybersecurity insurance to cover us in the event. Plus, we have everything's backed up
Yeah.
in the cloud.
That's
So
great.
we do have those two things. But yes, in order to be in compliance for the insurance coverage, we have to have two-factor authentication, which we've done, as you all know, from the town hall. So
Yeah.
now the police are working on that for themselves.
I spend pretty much half my day, as I have from all my different clients and everything, just going back through different two-factor authentications. Like it's,
Right.
but I understand it's super important.
There
It
is
works.
a
Just don't lose your cell phones.
I know, which I did last week actually.
I mean, we do have a higher level security here, right? Just to get in the building and
Yeah,
the
of
network
course.
system and all that other
So your
stuff.
data security.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the old station, we only had like a dual backup system. We had a regular server system, and then we had a subpar server attached to that as the backup system, and a tape drive that kind of like reminded me of an 8-track tape. It would back up on that thing, and the old chief would take that and take it home off site and put it in his safe. He would do that like once a week. Now with the new technology that we have here now, we actually have like 3 levels of backup. So we have the cloud, right? So then we have another server similar to what I just described, and then we have another hard drive external server that backs up. So there's 3 levels there, and that's all in case of we do get hacked. We have multiple layers of protection in place, so we are in a real good place with that.
Perfect.
Chief, on page 57, the police, and this is not a complaint, it's more of a question.
Sure.
Police vacation buyback. We went from 26,000 down to basically 13,000. We cut it in half. I'm just curious, do we think that we're gonna be doing less buyback?
Well, that line item was dealt with the retirees.
Oh, I thought it was only the one above, so that's why, like the sick buyback, but then it's also the vacation buyback for those ones as well.
Along with that, forgive me, officers have the ability through their contract to be able to buy back 1 week of their vacation as well. And it's really kind of like unpredictable. They may want to cash in a week, they may not, but that's what that line's also used for.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
But now, if you can imagine, a lot of our veteran officers are gone. So we got a lot of new officers in the department. They don't have the same number of vacation time as well. So we're taking that into fact as well.
On page 59, the police other purchase services, it looks like the budget is going from 41,943 to a request of 29,591.
Never get a drop.
Yeah, the account is 5380.
Third one down.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah.
I don't remember. We did.
I'm trying to, it must have been something specific because that like went way up, right? 03 to 04, and then it's kind of now landing somewhere in the middle.
Other purchase.
Yeah, let me look at that, my spreadsheet here to give some more.
We did this and I can't remember what it was.
It's a very specific number too.
No, that's a good point.
It's
I
looks
had
like it's a
62 cents at the end of it.
Percentage of something.
Okay, so with this line item, we deal with a number of contractual agreements that include a number of software services along with other services. And I'll go down the list here. We have a shredding service. It's called Stereocycle. LexisNexis is a police law enforcement software program that gives us extra police investigative tools. Automated business solution. It's a copier maintenance for all the copiers here. So on this list here, there's probably like 15 different types of services. So all those added up comes out to that amount. I'm not really sure what the chief accounted for the prior budget. I didn't really have any involvement with that budget, but this is what I foresee in this account with its tally. I can go down the list as well. Our website maintenance, a space saver shelving system is we have these movable devices in our evidence room. They come out once a year to do the maintenance on that, oil, lube, whatever they do there. Power DMS, that's our document management system. All these services are within this line item here, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It just looks like it went up just for 2024 because the other years
It was
smaller.
pretty level, yeah.
But I mean, it's
I'm like, I
in
can
line with
almost
the
remember.
expenditures. I just
It's like, I think it's like one, it was something specific.
Yeah, it might have been one thing that the chief dealt with during
Yeah.
that last.
and probably didn't fit anywhere neatly. So this is kind of the, catch-all bucket.
Right.
You want to talk about your additional staffing request?
Yeah, so here's the department. It's been a challenging year. If everybody was healthy and in place and not dealing with unpredictable overtime, I would have 11 officers assigned to patrol. As you're aware that we've had 2 officers out IOD. We've had a number of officers become new dads. These are all unforeseen, unpredictable issues that come around and which leads to shortages on shifts and vacancies that should be filled due to safety. We're at levels now that when we have an absence within a shift, it brings us down to 2 people on a shift. The safer route is to have a patrol supervisor and 2 officers working on a shift. Even today, we try not to force people to work certain shifts, but unfortunately at times we will work as low as 2 men on a shift. But not all the guys want to take overtime and fill that 3rd shift. So, and going into this year, was encouraged that as a new chief that, the intention was to try to reduce overtime. And then I'm dealt with this year of years, right? So it's been very challenging. And the only way to really do that is to have the bodies to support when we do have a vacancy within a line that we don't have to fill the overtime shift because we have that extra body that's there. But when you're dealing with predictable overtime, predictable vacancies versus unpredictable vacancies, they all seem to mix together. I just mentioned to you, I got guys out IOD and, FMLA is all in play. And then these guys they want, their vacation time or their personal leave, or guys have to do their annual training or specialized training. All this stuff merges together and there's these vacancies all over the place. And I need some form of relief to be able to manage that stuff. Years past, before police reform, our department really relied on part-time officers to be able to fill these open vacancies. From year to year, we had 6 to 8 part-time officers on our department. So when an officer was on vacation or taking a sick day or whatever, that part-time officer came in, he filled that shift, and it was a significant financial burden relief by using these part-time officers. Because if you can imagine, you take the whole department now and the average overtime rate between patrolman all the way to lieutenant is almost $62 an hour. That's the average. The lieutenant's overtime rate when he works a patrol is close to $80 an hour. So filling these shifts, back in the day, a part-time officer would only be like $25 an hour,
Yeah.
right? So these are the dilemmas that we're dealing with. We no longer have that police reform. There's no more part-time officers. So our choices are this: either fill the shift, the open vacancy with overtime, or you run short. And we're finding very difficult when we're making an arrest and our two only officers that are working has to sit there in the booking room, do a booking process, complete a report, potentially ship them to the House of Correction in New Bedford and come back probably a 3 to 3.5 hour span when the rest of the town is unprotected.
There's one cop,
Right.
one police officer available.
Right.
From that, yeah, that's problematic.
So the only way to really thwart this is to get the extra bodies that we can be able to absorb. It's not going to completely get rid of overtime, but it, I believe, can significantly reduce the overtime. To get to that level, currently we're 20 full-time sworn officers. Within the patrol division, we have 11 assigned officers and 5 sergeants that are assigned for patrol specifically. 4 officers are assigned to administrative purposes. Myself, the chief, the lieutenant, and 2 detectives. Currently with our situation, because we're such in a pickle between a sergeant that's out IOD and a patrolman that's out IOD, I have removed one of our detectives from their assignment and placed him in a patrol position. He's actually acting as an acting sergeant because he's a senior officer, and he's able to manage the newly acquired officers that are on the midnight shift now. So, however, our one detective that's working now is overly consumed. I can see him trying to pick up the slack, but it's being pushed along to the lieutenant and myself to help manage what he's doing in there. So we really need the bodies. Originally, when I submitted a budget, this being my first budget, I requested 3 officers. 3 patrolmen would put 4 officers on every shift, and I would be able to manage dealing with overtime and having the shifts properly, safely assigned in their positions. But that type of impact on the budget in the town it ended up being like almost $270,000 to be able to put these 3 officers on the additionally to the budget. So it was suggested to me that let's do this in increments. Maybe we can get there over a period of time. But the good news is, just like Deb had mentioned, I was just aware of a new grant that came out last week for getting new officers through a federal grant. But it's not like the fire department. It's not 100%. It's what I read was a 75%, 25% program, and the program is designed to put officers in a community like problem solving position, and SROs included in that, or whatever type of program that would best suit the community. Well, one of the biggest problems that we're dealing with is the town boat ramp and the beach, and we can definitely incorporate that into the grant. Mm-hmm. I'm in the infant stage of dealing with that. So the budget that I presented to you folks now is only for 1 officer, but I'm inspired to maybe put in for the grant for 2 officers, and if the town is in an agreement to support that, then that would get us, a better way of having those positions and being able to offset overtime issues and keeping the line items in place with the personnel. So I foresee if it happens, if we had an injured officer, the priority might not be in the school that day. It might be taken out of that position for a period of time until the officer comes back. So I'm able to absorb that issue without costing being detrimental to the department in the town. That makes sense.
So just go into the grant. The grant is a little different than the fire grant. It's just 75-25 for 3 years, right?
Correct.
Can you explain that to me? So 75% the first year, 25% the second year? Or
No, it's 75% per year. We pay 25%.
Oh, okay, I got you. That makes
And they
sense.
pay
Yeah.
75
3 years.
for 3 years. And then, but there can be no attrition. At least we're not sure that, we're pretty sure you can't have attrition. In other words, you can't reduce after the 3-year period, you can't reduce your force.
They can pay it back.
Or else you'll pay
Yeah.
it back.
So it's a little different with the fire where I said, go ahead and apply for 4 because we know we can absorb 2 through attrition and that's where we're at. So we have discussed 2 and possibly 3, applying for 3, depending on the timing of when we got it, because then we would use this, you've added to the budget for salaries, you could use that to cover your 25% on 3 positions, which is ultimately what you wanted when you came into me with the budget, to get your staffing where you felt like you could at least reduce the most impact in overtime. Although there's always that unforeseen, unpredictable. We did have a murder in town this year that created a lot of overtime. And we never know, right? That there's no way for anybody to know. But so that's what I know that we're working on so that we can get the staffing levels where they need to be for the least impact to the town.
I highly doubt though we'll be in a situation where we think we need less police officers in 3 years from now. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
And I think that gives us time. We've got some big
Yeah.
things coming with the VP budget coming to full fruition.
Yeah.
And I think the school budget most likely will be coming up. Because it gives us some time to get us prepared for the impact. But of course, these discussions were between myself, Margaret, and the chief. He did fight really hard to get more positions. So, I don't think it's not doable financially this year. I'm more worried about next year and the following year. But I put that out there because if the board feels differently than I felt, because I do feel there's a need. I'm balancing the needs of the entire town.
yeah, I get it. It's tough. Yeah, but
So
I think we
Chief-
see it. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. You mentioned that the grant is for like problem solvers, like the boat ramp or the beach or the SRO. What happens and then you said that if somebody was out, if an officer was out, maybe the SRO could cover patrol. Would that be okay? Or does it have to be?
I think that as long as it's short term, it shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
But we have to stay within the stipulation of the grant.
Right.
And, I do have my concerns about the grant because there are some, it's a 3-year commitment. And I specifically read a paragraph dealing with you can't use it for attrition. So if you get the 3 people and somebody's going to retire, regarding the grant, you have to fill that a person that's retiring. All right. So, but that doesn't mean like after the 3 years, what I mean? You decide that, maybe. And again, I'm not talking my way out of having the extra bodies because I need the bodies, believe me. But, I won because back in, I think it was 2008, we got a grant for an SRO here in our elementary school. And we had the officer there for a year and a half. And at the time, the town had financial difficulties and they decided to lay off a number of officers, which put us in violation of the grant. So what ended up happening was we didn't have to pay back the grant, but the remainder of the funding was no longer available. And I don't think it affected us in getting any other grants shortly after that. But here we are, worked so hard to get that grant, and then we dealt with a financial difficulty. And I'm not looking to make a prediction, but we do have BP around the corner, right?
Yeah.
So listen, I just warn, we can't completely put all our eggs in the same basket of this grant. I'll do my due diligence and, report thoroughly to the town administrator, but I could definitely use the bodies.
You do have one person coming out of the academy in about a month. How will that be implemented once?
So, Mr. Kobe, will be graduating May 10th. And once an officer comes out of the academy, he's required to do a minimum of a 12-week field training officer program. And basically they go through all the ins and outs of the department, policies, procedures, make sure that the training officer is making sure Kobe's working sufficiently and he understands what his requirements are and the policies and procedures. So once he comes out, he'll probably, because of his seniority, go to a midnight shift. It's not like the favorable shift, but that's where it will go. But it would, now that I'm dealing with these officers IOD, it's definitely going to like reduce the overtime issues. And he was going to be placed in the position that suits us, best to make sure we have the 3 officers. One of the officers that is injured, his shift was the midnight shift. So,
Right.
So that's a vacancy right there.
yeah. So Kobe better enjoy his 12 weeks and then he can go to midnights.
Well, I was just making sure that wasn't like a standard boot camp when you go to the military. You get like a 10-day period off or a 20-day period.
Oh, no.
So it's like he graduates and boom, he's on shift.
New guy gets no time off. So they get to work.
And
Well, he'll
I know
appreciate
you
it.
had a number of officers retire last year. Are you expecting any attrition?
Well, the good news is I'm not expecting anybody to retire or leave for at least another 3 years.
Okay.
I had an officer come up to me recently who is coming up on his 3-year window that for contractual reasons, if they put in their notice for 3 years, they get an additional stipend for the first year, 0 on the second year, and then another stipend on the third year. But so if he puts in that notice, then he'll be the next person to retire. So I think he's going to put in July, so 3 years from July.
Okay, that's good.
And let's keep people healthy, not injured,
Yeah.
keep them at work.
So one of the things we talked about too, just so that everybody has a heads up, with new staff, we would not be looking for new cruisers. We'd be okay using what we have.
I think currently for this year, we're going to be fine. But as history is our teacher here, right? Because what we do is we evaluate the amount of miles that are on our cars on a regular basis. And we know that 5 years and 100,000 miles is pretty close to where we got to get rid of these cars that are in patrol. And I want to say in patrol versus some of the sedan cars that we have that are unmarked. The cars that are on patrol are worked so much harder than like my car or the detective's car. They're in high-speed pursuits. They're going from 0 to 60, stopping speeding cars, all this. This is all wear and tear on the vehicle. And then on top of that, we were just talking about idling time. How often do you drive by an officer parked in the same location? He's probably sat there for a half hour to 45 minutes watching traffic, and he hasn't gone anywhere, but that's all wear and tear on the vehicle. The newer vehicles now, I just found out they don't clock the engine hours. Before, the older cars, we used to be able to see the engine hours and come up with a formula on what the actual wear and tear and the amount of time of the vehicle is being used. The newer cars don't have that. I don't know why. Or you have to pay extra for it. Maybe that's what it is. You know what I mean? So forgive me.
About right.
We get the base models.
But I think as we go forward, especially this year, I think we're just going to have to watch and stick within our cruiser lease program that we got right now. And if I'm seeing that if I'm foreseeing a red flag coming down the road another year or two, I'm going to be the first one to say, hey, we got to make an adjustment here where maybe, because I think our current fleet, we do like 2, 2, and 3 like in a 3-year window. So maybe it runs up 2, 3, 3. But I'm going to have to be able to look at the mileage and watch how these extra bodies are affecting the car fleet.
But we did talk about you might need extra equipment, and then I said we would fund that if we had to fund it at fall town meeting or whatever. Once we know where we're headed, that there might be a little bit. I'm not overly concerned. I don't think it's going to be a big dollar figure, but it might be something you can absorb through the budget.
Right. We'll see. I mean, we might be able to, but if you can imagine with a new officer, they get their clothing allowance. It's like $1,650, whatever the amount is that's there. They have to get a new vest. If they are a lateral transfer, they potentially could bring their vest with them. I was kind of alarmed when I was listening to the fire chief. When we get issued our vest and we're wearing that day in and day out and it's getting all sweaty and all sorts of stuff, I tell you what, I don't want it back.
It's yours for life.
You got it, right? So,
I agree.
but a vest is like $900. It's an investment. Maybe if he had it for like 3 months and it wasn't that bad, maybe I'd get it back. But normally, it's on the body. You don't want that. So there's that type of fee. The department is required to keep up with all the leather gear for all the personnel. So between the belts and the holsters and all that other stuff, you're talking there probably like another $300-400 with all the equipment that's on there and stuff. So these are all, I say, small little things, but they build up, when you don't budget for it and stuff. So
I'm just giving everybody, so you know what I know in case this comes up.
So I just got a text. I have to go. My baby's fever is going up, so I got to.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
You're the family.
So the last thing we have is just the communication budget. It looks like it's went up total $1,300, right? You want to just nail that out real quick, and then I'll.
Yeah, and then town-wide fuel. Still so weird to
Can I
me.
go, like,
That, yeah,
leave my car at your house?
No,
Put the
it's
keys in
fine.
there?
I have my mother-in-law's car. I'll be fine. Actually, if I just take off now, do you mind closing the meeting? Is that okay?
It's fine.
Okay. All right. Sorry, everyone.
make sure.
Family comes first.
Anyways.
Good luck with the little one.
Yeah.
It goes
yeah.
okay.
And of course, my wife's on work trip in Toronto, so
Oh, jeez.
it's all right.
Is she blaming you yet?
I'm sure. That is going.
Yeah, if you want, I can just leave it in the driveway with the keys in it in case you need it in the night.
I'll text you. I'll let you. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna pass this over to you. In case everyone gets.
I know.
Little rowdy.
Real rowdy group. Yeah.
Oh, no.
All right.
I was gonna use the taser, but hey,
Uh-huh.
gavel works too.
Are we doing communications?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Communications.
communications.
I don't know. Did anybody have any other questions on police before we go to communications?
I was okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was helpful.
It's tough to, you've been dealt some serious cards this year regarding personnel and everything else. We support you in everything we can do, and but we still hold true to what we said previously. Is try to get that budget as far as overtime as down as possible. And I know at this point it's Herculean effort to do that. So, but keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I will say this, and I had talked to the town administrator about this, about, dealing with overtime and, what type of shifts that were being filled and whatnot. Our tracking system has been lacking with the shifts that we've been filling. Yeah, we can see it on the log, but what we're not seeing is why. What type of shift are we filling? When is it being filled? Is it getting filled? So recently I created a new spreadsheet to be able to track that monthly. As we go forward in July, I have the scheduling officer, lieutenant, using this sheet so I can have a report specifically, having a thorough understanding why and what shifts are being filled, so I can be able to track it and come back and say, hey, when I need this extra body, this is how it's going to help, because I'm dealing with predictable overtime, vacation, personal day or whatnot. And I could have potentially afforded that if I had the full-time personnel. But being able to track that and have an understanding why we're filling these shifts would help us budget for the future. So, and the main thing is I got the lieutenant on board with this. So that's the key.
You're being proactive.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, the question is why? Why is this happening? And when you're dealing with all these different aspects of it, the two officers being out, I can't tell you how detrimental that is. And then the third officer is in the academy, right?
Right.
They go to the academy, it takes 6 months. They come out of the academy. They got to be in a 12-week program. You already got the person tied up for 3/4 of a year, and he hasn't been solo yet.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's an investment. It's definitely an investment. So these are the challenges that we deal with.
Well, at least once that's done after a year, you'll be able to try to project what the quantifiably, if I get another person, I can save this amount of overtime. I mean, basically, you'd be able to say, we'll spend $100,000 in salary, but I'll save $30,000 or $40,000 in overtime.
Yeah.
So does it make sense to spend an extra 60 to have that extra patrolman or officer? And it will help quantify the need, and it helps when we're making decisions to see that.
I love to come back to you and say, hey, we're going to reduce the overtime by 25% or 50%. You know, I mean, that would be wonderful, right?
Sold.
So I don't know if all the guys would agree to that, but you know, but yeah, that's my goal. And believe it or not, there's some officers out there that don't want to work overtime. They just want to work their 40 hours and they want to go back to their family, right? And
Get it.
there's something to say about that, right? But I just remember my early years, I took every shift I could because I'm trying to like pay bills and, you know, and whatnot and support my family. So, but that's not for everybody. You know, everybody's different.
And generations are different, right?
Yeah.
We talk about managing different, like Gen X versus Gen. It's different now. It's different. People have a different outlook, and that's what it is, and that's okay. So yeah, it's going to change in every department.
But the guys have been good. They've been very helpful, very supportive, and I'm still here. Under five of you guys.
Kind of laughing, smiling. I'm not sure.
I don't think we had any questions about this budget.
Communication
No,
seems-
because this is all, I mean, we don't, the wages aren't gonna change, right?
They haven't
Right.
changed. We're
Haven't
negotiating the
changed yet.
union, so there's really nothing in this
So I don't
budget.
see any change really until then.
No.
So the only other one we have is townwide fuel,
That's $9.50.
$9.50.
It's not electrical yet.
Still,
Yes, my coffee.
Well, the good news is I spoke to Melanie today to go over the fuel budget, and we're looking good to where we're going to be within budget this year. So the cost of fuel has not changed. So I think I'm not going to have to come back and say, hey, we need more to deal with it. And as we go forward in the future, it's kind of like a roll of the dice. We don't know, you know, if fuel's going to go up or down, but staying with the same budget is probably okay for now. But I'm not seeing anything alarming. So.
I'll take that as good news.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was last year, the year before, we were having all these crazy issues with fuel, and we were sitting in here, and everyone's like, "Well, fuel could get up to $10.
Oh, yeah.
a gallon," and
Remember these
right,
discussions.
this discussion, right? So it's like, so we're not
wish I-
completely okay with our conversations we're having tonight on this.
I wish I could say that about vehicles. And I was listening to the fire chief too, that, you know, in a course of 1 year, because we're buying vehicles every year. Well, from 1 year to another, it was like over a $10,000 difference in 1 year.
Yeah.
It's like, you're at the whim. And these are the state bids. I mean, this is.
Sure.
So I'm assuming no one has any questions on fuel. Anything else? That's it, right? So,
Well, thank you for being kind.
Chief, thank you.
You're very nice, very pleasant.
Being well prepared.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Town Administrator and Margaret over there to make me prepared. They grilled
It only
me
took,
well.
what, 3 meetings?
That's
I
okay.
told you once you got through me, you'd be fine.
Listen, I'm a fighter. I'm trying to get there. Just can't get all there at once.
You did good for your. You did good for the first time. There's a lot to your budget, so I don't want you to think you didn't. You did great.
Well,
That's a big budget.
I have good support. You know, this being my first year, Melanie Foley, our secretary, administrative assistant, is just amazing, and she's been educating me very well. I mean, getting better at it. I'm not. I believe I will be up to her standard and her level pretty soon. Hey, I can do payroll now. You know, I feel confident in that. When she's on vacation, I can handle it. You know, but the people that are surrounded around you make your job easier, so I can focus on other things. And being able to delegate really helps me deal with whether it's policy writing or dealing with training or just dealing with the staff and making sure they're okay, and hear what's going on with them, keeping everybody happy. We want to keep people here. That you want to keep them committed. It takes some effort, and if I'm stuck in there doing budgets and bills all day long, I feel like I'm missing out on some of that stuff. But I got good help in there, so. But thank you.
Everything else good with everyone?
So,
All right. All right. So with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.